Hey everyone, and welcome back to part number 2 of this lesson series on Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones. Really well done if you've made it past part number 1. It's probably the hardest bit of the entire song. We're going to be into the meat and potatoes of the track now, and it's going to be really fun. I've got a massive thank you to Malcolm and Colin, who are my latest Patreon followers. If you'd like to get involved in the channel, please click the link below to my Patreon page. And with that in mind, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get straight into it. Right then, let's jump straight in with part number 2. We're going to begin by having a look at the verse and chorus rhythm guitar. Now straight away that's going to mean we are going to need to retune our guitars from E standard into open E, just like how we did at the beginning of part number 1. So that goes E, B, E, G sharp, B, E. So the only strings you need to change are the A string, D string and G string. If you need any help with that, please refer to the previous video. Anyway, let's have a look at the example first, and then I'll talk you through it. So hopefully you remember right at the end of the introduction we had this little riff. And that was the thing which led us into the verse. And for the entirety of all of the verses, we're going to be based around that 9th fret, anchored down from the low E string all the way to the high E string. And this guitar part is really going to act as the motor for the song. It's going to give the song a bit of life and a bit of momentum. Anyway, without any of the embellishments, the rhythm just sounds like this. And you'll notice there, every now and then I took my index finger off of the fretboard and played the open strings, and that really helps us define the rhythm a little bit more. Okay, so let's have a look at some of those little embellishments then. The first one is going to be us using our pinky finger to go over to the 12th of the A. So we're going to put our pinky finger on that 12th fret, and then we're either going to pull it off, or we're going to take it off and play the 9th fret again. We're then going to do something very similar with our middle finger. This time we're going to put it on the 10th of the G, and then again either pulling it off or taking it off and playing the 9th fret. And that gives us that nice sus4 sound. Together they sound like this. And I'll just play that again. we now need to finish the phrase off, and we're going to alternate two different endings. We're either going to put our pinky finger back on the 12th fret, then taking it off again, just like we did before, or we're going to take our index finger off the fretboard and we're going to play those open strings. And like I was saying, we're going to alternate those two things, so we're going to have something a bit like this. So let me just quickly recap that. We started at the 9th fret, low E to high E. We then put our pinky finger on the 12th of the A, then taking it off. Then we did the same thing with our middle finger, but this time 10th of the G, then off. And then afterwards, we either do the 12th of the A again, or we do our index finger off of all of the strings, playing those open. Once again, it goes like this. From here we can move into the chorus, and this is going to be a nice and simple part. We're simply going to take that bar chord on the 9th fret, play it, then move it down to the 7th fret, and then down to the 5th, and then back up again. It just sounds like this. Now, every time after the first time through that progression, in all of the choruses, I quite like to add in my middle finger again to get that sus4 sound. Now, this isn't strictly accurate to the record, but I think it's a really great idea to add in. It's really up to you at this point. Let me show you how it goes and you can decide what you think. So like I say, it's really up to you whether you want to put that in or not. Anyway, there's one extra thing I want to quickly talk about before we move on, and that's at the beginning of the second verse. There's going to be a little variation in the verse riff right before the lyrics come in, which only happens once in the entire song. It just goes like this. So I'm sure you noticed right at the end there, I just took my pinky finger and I put it on the 12th fret, flattening it and barring it over the 12th of the A, D and G, playing that a couple of times. And like I say, I think that just helps signal to the vocalist to begin the second verse. Let's listen to it again. We're now going to move on and have a look at the lead guitar for the first verse and first chorus. And straight away we need to get retuned back into E standard. I'm also going to bump my settings up a little bit, so I'm going to boost the bass and treble and also the gain as well. I'm going to start by showing you the example and then I'm going to talk you through it. Check this out. So this section is going to cover the first verse, moving into the chorus, and then spilling over a little bit into the second verse. And we're going to break that down into 4 parts. Part 1 will be the first verse, then we'll have 2 parts for the chorus, and then a 4th and final part beginning into the second verse. Part number 1 is going to sound like this. So we're going to start at the 9th of the D and 9th of the G. We're going to play those together and hammer on our ring finger to the 11th of the D. We're then going to move over to the 9th of the G, and then we're going to bend up on the 11th of the G and then hold that and then play the 9th of the G. And I'll just do that again. From here we're going to move over to the 11th of the D, to the 9th. We're then going to hammer on our ring finger to the 11th fret, and then play the 11th of the D again. Very slowly, part number 1 all together becomes this. And I'll just do that again. I should also just mention this part begins near the end of the first verse. It happens in bar number 5 on beat 3, and that's going to be on the and of beat 3. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. And if you prefer to think of it in terms of lyrics, it happens on If I Don't Get Some Shelter, and it's going to happen on the don't lyric there. Anyway, let's move on and have a look at part number 2. It's just going to sound like this. So we're going to be into the chorus now, and we're going to start by sliding in on the D string, 9th fret to 11th. Then to the 9th of the G, and then we're going to move over to the 11th of the G, and we're going to play that, bend it up and then bend it down. And I'll just do that again. We're then going to land at the 9th of the D with our index finger, so we've got a very small jump there. I'll just play that for you. Afterwards, we're going to do a very familiar part. Once again, sliding 9 to 11 on the D, then to the 9th of the G. And this time, we're going to play the 11th of the G. We're going to bend it up, then stop, then play the 9th of the G. So we have something like this. And I'll just do that again. To finish off part number 2, we're then going to go back to the 11th of the G, bending it up, then playing it and bending it down, going to the 9th of the G, and then the 11th of the D twice. I'll just play that again. Moving into part number 3, we've got this. And for that, we're going to start at the 9th of the D, climbing up to the 11th, then to the 9th of the G, and then we're going to bend up on the 11th of the G and then land at the 11th of the D. We're then going to go 9 to 11 on the D. To finish off part number 3, we're going to do this. we're going to go back to the 11th of the G and we're going to bend that up and we're going to play it 3 times, bending it up, and then play it once, bending it down. And I'll just do that again. We're then going to move to the 9th of the G and then the 11th of the D twice. All together, part number 3 sounds like this. Once again, part number 3. We're now going to have a look at part number 4, and this is going to be spilling over into the beginning of verse number 2. It just sounds like this. So for this, we're going to start at the 12th of the B, and we're going to do a very similar technique that we did last time. We're going to play it 4 times, 3 of those are going to be spent bending it up, and then 1 down, so we have this. And I'll just do that again. From here, we're going to move to the 11th of the G with our middle finger, to the 9th, and then the 11th of the D, we're then going to move to the 11th of the G, bending that up and down, then to the 9th of the D to 11. So far we've got this. Finally, we'll do the 9th of the D and G together, playing that twice, then we'll do the 11th of the D. Once again. All together, we've got this. Let's move on and have a look at the lead guitar for verse number 2 and chorus number 2. I'm going to start by showing you the example first and then we're going to break it down. Check this out. So we are going to break this down into 3 parts, starting with part number 1, which is going to be midway through verse 2. It just sounds like this. So for this, we're going to come straight in with a bend on the 11th of the G. We're going to bend it up and hold it, and also bring in our pinky finger to the 12th of the B. So we've got this. I'll just do that again. We're then going to play the 11th of the G, which is currently bent up, and bring it back down. And go to the 9th of the G. So we have this. We're then going to do something very similar a second time round. We're going to go back to the 11th of the G, bending it up, and pinky finger at the 12th of the B. But this time we're immediately going to go to the 9th of the G and then the 11th of the D. So we have something like this. And together. From here we're going to play the 11th of the D again and slide it down the neck. And we're going to finish part number 1 by going back to the 9th of the E and B strings, and we're going to stab these notes together 3 times. Once again, part number 1 all together sounds like this. Let's move on and have a look at part number 2, which is going to sound like this. To start part number 2, we're going to go straight into a bend, and we're going to play it quite a few times. We're going to be at the 11th of the G, and we're going to play it 6 times bending it up, and then a 7th time bringing it down. So we have something like this. And I'll just do that again. We'll then move to the 9th of the G and then play the 11th of the D twice. So the opening part of part number 2 sounds like this. From here we're going to go to the 9th of the D, climbing up to the 11th, and the 9th of the G. And we're going to do a big bend on the 11th of the G, bending it up and down. We're then going to bring it down, pull it off to the 9th fret very quickly. We'll then play the 11th of the D, going back to the 9th of the G, which sounds like this. And I'll just do that again. We're now going to go back to the 11th of the G, and we're going to bend that up and then bring our index finger over to the 9th of the E. I'll just do that again. At this point we'll go back to the 11th of the G, bending it up and down. We're then going to play the 9th of the G to the 11th to the 9th, and then the 11th of the D. Afterwards we'll go to the 9th of the D to the 11th. Altogether, part number 2 is going to sound like this. Moving into part number 3, we're going to play this. So the start of part number 3 is going to be identical to what we played in part number 2, and that's going to be the sequence at the 11th of the G, bending it up, then bringing our index finger over to the 9th of the high E, then going back to the 11th of the G, bending it up and down, then 9, 11, 9 on the G, moving to the 11th of the D. Let me just play that again. one more time. We'll then do that familiar part, 9 to 11 on the D. To finish off part number 3, we're going to move back to the 11th of the G and we're going to bend it up 3 times and then bring it down and pull it off to the 9th of the G, and we'll do that twice. Then finally we'll go to the 11th of the G once more, playing it, bending it up, then bringing it down, then the 9th of the G back to the 11th of the D, and we'll play it quite a few times again. Once again, part number 3 together. Altogether, from part 1 through to part number 3, we have this. So that concludes part number 2 of my lesson on Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones. In part number 3, we're going to have a look at the guitar solo. It's going to be really exciting. Until then, I'm going to leave you with the backing track.